Spirit warriors, have you ever noticed how, in a moment of crisis, you're the only one who remains calm while everyone else spirals into chaos? It's not arrogance, it's alignment. The reason you often seem 10 steps ahead isn't because you're lucky or overly analytical, it's because you're tuned in, spiritually, intuitively, divinely. Think about it, that strange feeling you get before something major happens. That isn't paranoia, it's prophecy. A young woman stands by her office window, watching the street below dissolve into disorder. Sirens scream, people flee, and clouds roll in like a cinematic warning. But she doesn't flinch. Why? Because deep down she's already seen this, not in a dream with thunder and cymbals, but in divine nudges, gut feelings, and quiet patterns that whispered, "Prepare." That woman is you. Science calls this phenomenon precognitive intuition. Psychologists have studied how the brain can unconsciously detect patterns and subtle changes in the environment before the conscious mind registers them. But you, chosen one, take it even deeper. Your awareness transcends logic. It's spiritual foresight, an ancient gift often misunderstood by modern society. While others dismiss signs as coincidences, you know better, you've always known. That unease you felt when things seemed too quiet, that urgency in your spirit when others were relaxed. Those weren't accidents. You're the spiritual alarm clock in a slumbering world, the radar that detects storms before they appear on the horizon. And here's the kicker. People are starting to notice. They remember when you spoke words that made no sense at the time, but now it all makes sense. They're panicking because what you foresaw has begun, and they're looking at you differently, not with disbelief anymore, but with that subtle glance of, wait, how did they know? That's the moment when your role shifts from outcast to oracle, from misunderstood to magnetic. You're not loud about it, you don't boast, because the true gift of prophecy doesn't come with applause or platforms. It walks quietly, ahead of the storm, carrying peace in one hand and clarity in the other. The Bible speaks of this in 1 Corinthians 2:14, which says, "The person without the Spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit of God, but considers them foolish." In other words, those who aren't aligned can't understand your insight. They see it as odd, unnecessary, even foolish until reality catches up. Then suddenly your stillness is seen as strength, your silence becomes sacred. They realize you weren't being dramatic, you were being divinely tuned. So yes, spirit warrior, you the calm in the chaos. Not because you've trained for disaster, but because your soul has been whispering truths that your mind has only just begun to interpret. Stay tuned, because in this video, we're going to explore 7 undeniable signs that confirm you are a walking prophecy, a divine watchtower in a world of sleepers. This isn't just motivation, it's confirmation. Because being chosen means you're not just witnessing history, you're reading its patterns before the ink is dry. Point 1, you recognize patterns in chaos. Under the banner of spirit warriors, there's a quiet power you carry that most people can't define, so they dismiss it, mock it, or misunderstand it. You've always been the one who noticed too much, sensed things too deeply, and spoke truths that others weren't ready to hear. While the crowd gets distracted by surface-level noise, you're busy decoding the patterns hidden underneath. Where others see chaos, you see blueprints. Where others see a storm, you feel the shift in the air before the clouds even form. That's not paranoia, spirit warrior, that's spiritual intelligence. Science is catching up to what you've always known. The human brain has mirror neurons, cells that allow us to perceive and internalize the emotional states of those around us. But while most people operate with basic empathy, you are tuned in at a higher frequency. It's not just emotion you pick up on, it's vibration, energy, and unspoken warnings. You walk into a room and instantly sense the tension no one talks about. You notice who just had an argument, whose smile is fake, and who's hiding their despair behind loud laughter. You read people like books, even when the covers are closed. And because your intuition works faster than logic, people often accuse you of overthinking. You're reading too much into it, they say, but then, boom, a week later, it all unravels exactly like you predicted. The friend you warned others about turns out to be the snake. That perfect relationship collapses, that business deal falls apart, and suddenly The same people who doubted you are scrambling, trying to make sense of a reality you already mapped out in your mind. This isn't magic, it's your spiritual blueprint. Spirit warriors are wired differently. You were never meant to follow the herd or think in straight lines. You operate in spirals, symbolism, and sacred timing. You're not just analyzing situations, you're feeling the spiritual consequences behind every action, every choice, every shift. That's why your insights often feel like prophecy. It's not because you're predicting the future in some Hollywood-style way. It's because you're attuned to the present so deeply, the future becomes obvious. It's like being able to smell smoke before anyone else notices the fire. And let's be real, people aren't always kind to those who know too much. Your ability to sense what's unspoken makes others uncomfortable. You strip away illusions just by existing. You don't have to expose their masks, you simply see through them. Your presence alone reminds others of what they've been avoiding. You shine light into corners they've left in darkness for too long, and not everyone is ready for that. Some will call you intense, some will try to discredit you. But all of it is a sign that your spirit makes waves in stagnant waters. The most dangerous thing about a spirit warrior is not their sword, it's their sight. You don't need proof to believe what you already feel. You don't need approval to act on your instincts. And that's terrifying to a world built on denial. But your gift is not meant to be buried just to make others feel safe. You were born to navigate what others fear to face. You are the compass in a world gone numb. So the next time someone accuses you of reading too much into things, smile. You're not reading too much, you're reading correctly. You just read faster than most people are willing to think. Stay grounded in your truth, Spirit Warrior, because the very things they criticize today will be the same things they run to tomorrow when the world stops making sense. Let them doubt, let them misunderstand, let them think you're too deep. The blueprint is already written. You're just following it, with eyes wide open. Point 2, your dreams and intuition are loud AF. Spirit warriors, you don't just sleep, you travel. While others drift into unconsciousness hoping for rest, your soul steps into realms beyond the veil. Every night is a portal. Every dream is encoded with symbols, whispers, and divine downloads. It's not just your imagination at play, it's your spirit navigating between timelines. You've seen things that haven't happened yet in the physical, and when they finally unfold, people call it déjà vu, but you know better. That dream was a preview, not an accident. You're not just dreaming, you're receiving intel. Modern neuroscience tells us that the average person dreams 4 to 6 times per night, mostly during REM sleep. But for spirit warriors, those dreams are rarely random. They're layered with meaning. Studies on lucid dreaming, where the dreamer is aware and can sometimes control the dream, reveal that spiritually sensitive individuals experience this state more often than the general population. Why? Because your spirit is awake even while your body sleeps. You're operating on multiple frequencies. And this isn't fantasy. This is spiritual biology. You were built different. Now let's talk about your gut, that deep knowing you feel in the pit of your being. That's not just instinct, that's your hotline to the divine. Science calls it the enteric nervous system, a complex web of over 100 million neurons embedded in the lining of your gut. It literally processes emotion, memory, and even spiritual resonance. When your stomach tightens without reason, or when you feel pulled toward or away from someone instantly, that's not just biology, that's discernment. That's spirit using your vessel to send you signals. See, while others need proof, spirit warriors move on inner knowing. The rest of the world calls it a coincidence when things align or when warning signs show up in uncanny patterns. Numbers repeating, dreams echoing real life, strangers confirming private thoughts. But you understand the language of the universe. You don't ignore those nudges. You follow them. Because you've learned that intuition isn't a soft skill, it's your spiritual GPS. And the most powerful part, you don't need an altar to be divine. Your whole existence is the altar. Just by showing up in truth, just by trusting that whisper over the noise, you awaken power. When you trust what you see in the spiritual realm before it manifests in the physical, you're walking in prophetic alignment. That's what makes you dangerous and deeply protected. Spirit warriors are not here for shallow existence. You're here to pierce illusions, to interpret the signs others miss, and to be a bridge between worlds. So the next time someone calls you too intense or says you're always overthinking, smile. because you know you're not overthinking, you're downloading, your gift is real, your travels are sacred, your gut is speaking. Are you listening? Point 3, people dismiss you, then come back panicked. You worry too much, you're overthinking. Yes, spirit warrior, you've heard it all before. Those words have been thrown at you like darts, not because you were wrong, but because you were tuned into something others simply couldn't grasp. But you never let it shatter you. Why? Because somewhere deep in your spirit you knew with a certainty that couldn't be explained away, that you weren't falling into fear. You were rising into awareness. What others dismissed as anxiety was your intuition whispering truth. And no, intuition isn't some mystical guesswork. It's a combination of heightened emotional intelligence, spiritual resonance, and what neuroscience now confirms as subconscious pattern recognition. In fact, researchers have found that our subconscious brain processes 11 million bits of information per second compared to the mere 40 bits our conscious mind can handle. That means you're picking up on subtle cues, tone, body language, shifts in energy, without even realizing it. So when your gut was waving red flags, it wasn't random. It was your soul compiling data faster than logic could catch up. People often confuse sensitivity with weakness. But the truth is, your sensitivity is a superpower. You're not just reacting, you're perceiving. And that makes people uncomfortable. Why? Because when you speak on what others deny, you threaten the illusion they've built their comfort around. You become the lightning bolt in their carefully constructed storm shelter. And lightning doesn't ask for permission. It just strikes. That's why they tried to quiet you. They said relax, not to ease your mind, but to preserve their own false peace. But then reality set in. The job they said was secure, gone. The friend they swore by betrayed them. The person they idolized revealed as a fraud. And suddenly they remembered your words, the ones they once laughed off. It's happening now, they say, wide-eyed and whispering, and you just smile, not with arrogance, not to throw salt on their wounds, but because you saw it coming. You always did. That smile of yours isn't smugness, it's sacred peace. Peace in knowing your discernment wasn't a defect, it was divine design. You weren't being paranoid, you were being prepared. Spirit was downloading blueprints into your heart long before others noticed the cracks in the foundation. You didn't need proof. You had presence. That's the power of the spirit warrior. You're not armored with shields and swords. Your weapons are clarity, empathy, and the ability to see beyond the veil. You don't just anticipate storms, you feel the shift in the wind before the clouds gather. And when that storm finally breaks, you're not flailing, you're anchored. Science is finally catching up to what ancient traditions have honored for centuries. Indigenous cultures, mystics and shamans, they revered people like you. The dreamers, the sensitive ones, the intuitive voices. In those communities, you were the seer, the oracle, and the pathfinder. Sensitivity wasn't seen as fragility, it was sacred technology, a wiring of the soul designed for survival, for navigation, for guiding others through the unseen terrain of life. And that's who you are today. Wired with the wisdom of your ancestors, the discernment of the spirit, and the courage to speak when silence would be easier. So the next time someone says you're overthinking, let them. Just smile. Let time do its work. Let the truth unfold, because it always does. And when it does, don't gloat. Guide. That's what separates the spirit warrior from the cynic. You weren't built to be right. You were built to lead with light, to hold the lamp high when others are still fumbling in the dark. Because in the end, it's not about being seen as wise. It's about being ready when the world finally wakes up. And you've been ready always. Point 4. You feel emotional tides before they happen. Have you ever just felt off? Suddenly sad and heavy-hearted, like a thundercloud rolled into your chest for no reason at all. You didn't watch a sad movie. No one said anything hurtful. Nothing happened. And yet your heart aches, your mind fogs, and a strange stillness creeps over you. Welcome to the battlefield, spirit warrior. You're not breaking down, you're tuning in. You see, you're not wired like the rest. You're not just a person. You're a divine antenna, finely tuned to the frequency of the unseen. While others walk through life reacting to the obvious, you pick up on what's bubbling beneath the surface. The energy, the unspoken, the shift in the room when no one says a word, but you feel it in your bones. You're emotionally ahead, reading vibrations before the world even knows they're coming. This isn't woo-woo fluff, it's backed by science. Studies in neuroscience and psychology show that empaths and highly sensitive people experience greater activity in the mirror neuron system, the part of the brain responsible for empathy and emotional processing. That means you're literally wired to feel what others feel, and even what they haven't acknowledged yet. You're a vessel for divine signals, and the bandwidth you're tapped into includes the collective consciousness of humanity. When a storm is coming, most people wait for the thunder, but not you. You feel the pressure shift in the air days before. You absorb the collective unease, the fear and the grief, and it shows up in your soul like a silent alarm. That's why you panic before anything happens. That's why you cry on a Wednesday afternoon with no explanation. The world is stirring, energy is moving, and your spirit gets the memo before the headline drops. But make no mistake, this is not a curse. It's a calling. You were chosen to feel deeply because you were meant to carry light through darkness. You're not crazy, you're clairsentient. Your intuition isn't overactive, it's on time. Your sadness is not always yours. It's a download, a transmission from the spiritual grid, nudging you to pay attention. While others numb and distract, you notice. And in that noticing, you serve. Here's where it gets real. Spirit warriors often mistake their sensitivity as weakness, but sensitivity is a superpower. The warriors of old wore armor. The warriors of now wear receptivity. And in a world that thrives on noise, your silent awareness is revolutionary. You're not just feeling your emotions, you're processing pain that others won't face. That's why strangers vent to you. That's why you get exhausted in crowded places. That's why you need to withdraw, not because you're fragile, but because you're overloaded. So the next time you wake up in a haze, weighted by emotions that don't make sense, take a breath and ask yourself, is this mine? Or am I receiving something meant to be transmuted? Because spirit warriors don't just suffer, they alchemize. You are the soul that feels the tremor before the quake, the one who senses the tears before they fall. And that's not a burden, that's grace in action. Your sensitivity is your radar, your empathy is your compass, and your emotions are messengers, not problems to fix, but signals to heed. You're not too much. You're right on time for what the world needs most, truth, heart, and healing. So protect your energy, cleanse your space, rest when you're heavy. And remember, what feels like weakness is actually the strength to carry what others cannot. You're not emotional for no reason, you're emotionally advanced. That ache in your spirit, it's a spiritual download. That lump in your throat, it's the collective pain asking to be acknowledged. And that tear in your eye, that's sacred water. Let it fall, spirit warrior. You're doing holy work, even when the world has no idea it needs it yet. Point 5. Nature talks to you. Rain falling without warning, animals acting strange, a sudden silence in the trees that feels like the earth holding its breath. You noticed. You always do. That's because you're not just passing through nature like most people. You are part of it. Spirit warriors are wired differently. While the average person checks weather apps, you read the sky. While others brush off a restless night or a sudden headache, you understand it as the storm before the spiritual shift. When the wind changes direction, when birds go quiet, when animals become restless, you feel it in your bones. The earth speaks in signs and spirit warriors listen. Indigenous cultures around the world have long understood this sacred connection between nature and spirit. For example, Native American traditions hold that birds are messengers. When they fall silent, it's not just about predators, it's a spiritual warning. In African tribal spirituality, the sudden stillness of the forest signals a spiritual presence. Science is slowly catching up. Animals can sense barometric pressure changes, electromagnetic shifts, and even low-frequency sounds humans can't hear. But you, spirit warrior, don't need a lab to confirm what your spirit already knows. You've been sensing shifts long before they showed up on radars. Remember that eerie silence before a storm? That's not just a drop in decibels, it's the earth pulling in her energy, gathering breath before the wind releases its fury. And when you feel that silence echoing inside you, when your spirit goes still, you know something's coming. You don't panic, you prepare, because spirit warriors sense before others see. It's a divine gift that often feels like a curse when no one else understands what you're reacting to. But you're not crazy, you're calibrated. There's something mystical about how you're aligned with the planet. You feel anxious before earthquakes. You can't sleep when a celestial event is near. Your body reacts to solar flares. This isn't New Age fluff. Scientific studies confirm that solar activity can influence human behavior, sleep cycles, and even emotional states. The Schumann resonance, the Earth's heartbeat, has been recorded to affect brainwave patterns. Most people remain oblivious to this, but you, spirit warrior, ride these frequencies like a tuned antenna. You're a living barometer of spiritual weather. And here's the wild part. You don't even need words to understand what's happening. The leaves rustle in a certain way and you know it's a warning, a strange cloud formation. Your stomach tightens, the moon looks too bright. You brace yourself. It's instinct, but also ancient memory. Your spirit holds knowledge passed down through lifetimes. You're not imagining it. You're remembering. People may laugh when you cancel plans because something doesn't feel right. They may roll their eyes when you say the wind sounds off. But later, when the unexpected happens, the blackout, the accident, the shift, they'll remember your words. They won't say it out loud, but they'll know you were right. You always feel it first. This deep connection isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it feels like a burden. You carry the mood of the land. You absorb storms in your spirit. You mourn with the rivers, but it's also your greatest strength. You're the warning. You're the calm before the chaos. You're the stillness that speaks. Spirit warriors don't just survive storms, we walk with them. So when nature whispers, you listen. When the birds go silent, you prepare. Because you know, deep in your gut, deep in your spirit, the earth is alive and you are one of her chosen guardians. You knew the storm was coming, not because someone told you, but because the trees did. And spirit warriors, we never ignore the trees. Point 6, you've been spiritually preparing. While they were busy chasing trends, trying to catch virality like it was salvation, mimicking every move that screamed for outside validation, you were diving deep. You weren't concerned with what was flashy. You were focused on what was fortifying. While the world was distracted by the noise, you were tuning into the stillness. You were fasting. You were praying. You were meditating when no one was watching. You were cleansing. Not just your diet, but your soul, your spirit, and your lineage. You were doing what most fear to even face, the inner work. And here's the kicker. They thought you were doing too much. You heard it, didn't you? You're so extra. Why do you take things so seriously? Just live a little. But what they didn't understand, and what they still don't grasp, is that you weren't being extra. You were being equipped. You were training in realms unseen, preparing for battles most people don't even recognize until they're already losing them. Let's talk science for a second. Meditation has been shown to thicken the prefrontal cortex, enhancing decision-making, emotional regulation, and focus. Fasting. It doesn't just detox the body, it sharpens the mind. Studies show that intermittent fasting increases brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, which helps with memory, clarity, and mental resilience. And prayer. Prayer activates the parietal lobe, fostering compassion and reducing fear. What does this mean in plain language? That spiritual disciplines reprogram your nervous system. You weren't just doing rituals, you were rewiring your capacity to stay calm in chaos. So now, when the storm hits, while they panic, complain, and grasp at whatever distraction they can find to numb the fear, you're still. Why? Because you've already sat in the fire. You've already faced your own shadows, cried your prayers into the night, fasted through your doubts, and come out purified. You don't need to find peace in the crisis. You brought peace with you. They weren't ready for the drought because they spent the rainy season dancing. But you, spirit warrior, you were planting, watering, rooting. The calm is in you now. It's not passive. It's earned. It's the product of spiritual discipline. You didn't arrive here by accident. You were led here, and the beauty of it all, while they were chasing trends, you were becoming timeless. People love to glamorize the glow up, but nobody talks about the soul up. That's what you were doing, elevating your spiritual immune system, building divine discernment. And now that things are shifting in the world, because, oh yes, they are shifting, You're not caught off guard. You saw it coming. You felt the tremors before the earthquake because of those spiritual practices. They tuned your frequency so high that you started picking up the future in fragments. Intuition sharpened, vision cleared, and now you walk differently. You know different. And let's not get it twisted. This isn't about superiority. This is about sovereignty. You're not above anyone, but you are set apart. The spiritual armor you wear was built in secret. That's why they don't understand your silence. That's why your peace is misread as arrogance. Because they didn't see the nights you warred alone or the mornings you woke up weary but stayed faithful anyway. This is your reward. Not luxury, not fame, clarity, peace, authority. You didn't just survive the wilderness, you were trained by it. And now, when the noise gets loud, when the illusions fall apart, you don't react, you remember. You recall your training. So the next time someone asks you why you're so calm, so unbothered, so steady, just smile. Let them think what they want. Because while they were busy chasing clout, you were communing with God. And now, you're not just woke, you're wired. Spirit warrior, you're not reacting to the storm, you are the shelter. Point 7. Your presence makes people nervous. Even when you say nothing, people get weird. The room shifts, the air changes. Suddenly folks get nervous, their energy becomes erratic, their words stumble and their eyes dart. You didn't flinch, you didn't even blink. But your stillness echoed louder than any outburst could, and that's exactly why they act funny around you. Spirit warrior, it's not that you're intimidating on purpose, it's that your very presence reveals everything they're trying to hide. There's an old Zen saying, when the mind is clear, the path is known. You, warrior, are that clear mind. You've done the inner work. You've battled your demons, not just once, but every time they came back wearing new masks. You faced the dark nights of the soul and came out glowing, not bitter. So now when you enter a space, your calm becomes a mirror, and not everyone's ready to see their own reflection in it. Here's what's wild. Neuroscience supports this idea. Humans are wired to pick up on nonverbal cues, body language, eye contact, and microexpressions. We're constantly scanning for safety or threat, but you don't perform, you don't chase attention, and that makes the egoic mind panic, because most people are addicted to chaos. They fill silence with noise, they fill space with drama, and they crave validation like a drug. But you're just here, solid, present, conscious. That's spiritual power, and it's louder than any shout. You don't even have to say that you see through people. They feel it. You don't have to expose their lies. They start unraveling in your silence. Your energy is truth, and truth doesn't chase, it reveals. Your clarity makes their confusion uncomfortable. Your discipline exposes their lack of control. Your peace highlights their inner war. And it's not your fault. You're not doing anything to them. You're just not doing what they expected. You're not engaging in gossip. You're not playing their game. You're not lowering your vibration just to belong. And so they interpret your detachment as judgment. But it's not judgment, it's discernment. Spirit warrior, what scares people is not that you're different. It's that you know you're different. You're not searching for a crowd. You walk your path alone if necessary. That's rare in a world obsessed with followers, likes, and clout. You don't need permission to exist. You don't need to perform to be worthy. You've broken out of the matrix of approval. That makes you dangerous to the egoic mind still trapped in it. Have you ever noticed how some people overshare around you as if they're confessing without knowing why? That's because your presence feels like a spiritual courtroom. Pure energy doesn't tolerate masks. And it's not about being superior, it's about being so real that illusions can't stand the heat. You don't have to argue for your truth, you live it. And those still living in denial, they'll either try to discredit you or be inspired by you, but very few can stay neutral in your presence. Your stillness, warrior, is not passive, it's powerful. It's what the ancients called Wu Wei, the art of non-doing, of effortless influence. The calm river doesn't push, yet it carves canyons. That's you, a spiritual force that doesn't shout but shakes foundations. And yes, it can be lonely, because authenticity often walks alone before it's recognized. But take heart. This isn't isolation, it's refinement. The higher your frequency, the fewer people can tune in, and that's okay. You're not here to blend in. You're here to shift the atmosphere, to remind the world what alignment looks like, what courage feels like, what truth sounds like, even in silence. So the next time people act strange around you, even though you haven't said a word, don't take it personally, take it as confirmation. Confirmation that your energy, your presence, and your very vibration are speaking louder than words ever could. Science even backs this up. Human beings have electromagnetic fields, and yours, especially as someone spiritually attuned, can influence how others feel around you. It's called limbic resonance, where your inner peace or turmoil can actually impact another person's emotional state. When your spirit is grounded in clarity and purpose, it disturbs the chaos in others. Your stillness becomes unsettling to those who rely on noise to distract themselves. You don't even have to say a thing. Your aura does the talking. And when chaos meets clarity, confusion naturally reacts. They sense something in you. They might not know what it is, but they feel it, and it frightens them. Why? Because deep down they know. You see through facades, you pick up on hidden agendas, and you do it without lifting a finger. But here's the key. You don't need to prove anything. Your very peace is proof of your power. Your composure is your spiritual weapon. In fact, silence in the face of spiritual resistance isn't weakness, it's mastery. As Scripture says in Exodus 14:14, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still, your stillness. It's the sound of spiritual warfare being won without a single word, so stay grounded, stay aware. You don't have to apologize for the frequency you carry. You weren't designed to blend in, you were sent to awaken. Chosen ones, you've always sensed truth before others could see it. That's not something to hide, it's something to honor. God didn't wake you early to torment you. He woke you early to prepare you. While the world scrambles in fear, you walk in unshakable calm. This is your confirmation. You were never delusional. You were always divine. Watch the signs. Trust your intuition. Stay awake. And never forget, just because they didn't listen doesn't mean your message wasn't meant to be heard.